this evening, October 9th, 2018, at 7:45.
Opening statement, let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner: by the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on January 5, 2018, by the faxing of a copy of said notice to the Tri-Town News, Asbury Park Press, and Star Ledger for information and publication on January 5, 2018, by the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on January 5, 2018. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of Public Law 1975, Chapter 127. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with emergency exits for your safety. Upon exiting the meeting room, they are to your left and to your right. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Television. Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell.
Here.
Mrs. Smith has an excused absence. Mr. Walsh, excused absence. Mr. Nicastro.
Here.
Mayor Berger.
Present. I'm sorry. If we could all stand and say a pledge of allegiance, and then a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Nicastro.
Yes.
Mayor Berger.
Yes. Are there any reports?
Yes, Mayor, we have a presentation tonight for the Community Development Block Program. So I think we'll start with that, and then we'll handle our internal reports after that.
Okay.
So, Chris, if you'd like to step up. So tonight we have with us Christopher Gulix. Chris is the chairman of this year's CDBG Citizens Participation Committee. He has dedicated some of his time out of his work days to come to Town Hall, meet with us, go over different projects, and make this presentation tonight. So without further ado, I will open the floor up to Mr. Gulix.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening, thanks for coming.
Oh,
Chris,
it's a
can you
pleasure.
pull the mic closer to you?
Better?
Yes.
So tonight I wanted to present to you the work that we've done through the, associated with the Community Block Development Grant for 2018. On August 15, 2018, the Citizens Participation Committee met to discuss a few different projects associated with this grant, eligible projects for the eligible project areas. So briefly go over those. There were 4 projects there were a number of projects discussed before met the eligibility that we felt. So one was a continuation of the pavement overlayment of Casino Drive, and we'll go into a little more detail of that. Sidewalk installation in the Adelphia section of Howell. Pavement of Georgia Tavern Road from West Farms Road to Casino Drive. And pavement of Maxim Road from Oakland Road to Preventorium Road. So the committee met on the 15th, like I said, and went over what made the most sense for a project, which is the resurfacing of a portion of Casino Drive and the 3-way intersection of Peskin Road and Southern Avenue. We felt it would best qualify for the funding, and the fact that the township was recently awarded $131,774,000 in 2017 under the block grant. So this project will, and that was associated with the mill and pave of a portion of Casino Drive. So the project we looked at for fiscal year 2018 would continue the resurfacing and would include some additional drainage improvements to bring some inlet design standards to the current design. So it would reshape the road and install a minimum of a 2-inch thick top course of pavement on that particular roadway. So prior to tonight's meeting, the Citizen Participation Committee held a separate public hearing to solicit input from local residents. Two attended, did not provide any particular input relative to any other projects, and did not indicate that this project was not acceptable. The anticipation of continuing with the recommendation of the Citizens Participation Committee, Jim Herman, Director of Community Development, created a cost estimate which included soft cost and construction costs. We are going to request from the county the maximum amount of the grant, which is $200,000. We'll not know the exact cost of the engineering work until proposals are obtained from the professionals. During the design process, we'll work with the consultants to determine the final layout as well. So this concludes the presentation of to the committee, mayor and council tonight. If the council agrees with the presentation, the rules require a quick straw poll vote of the council members to approve or deny the application. No formal resolution is required. So we'll take any questions from the council at this time.
Is there a match to this grant?
No, this is not a matching grant. This is straight grant application and funding. If we expanded the limits or we presented a project that went beyond the grant amount, then we would be required to cover those costs out of our capital.
Thank you.
And 200,000 is the maximum request, and it is typically less than that, as indicated by the 2017 grant of 131,000 and change.
Jim, maybe for public edification, you kind of just go over how these grants are, what's required. I mean, we know the income of certain areas and, you know, why we can't do a project just anywhere in town.
Right, so the CDBG grant program is based on census tracts. Those census tracts are developed from when people return their census information they get in the mail. Unfortunately, many residents think it's junk mail and they throw it away. So when they're doing that, they're doing a disservice to themselves and to our town because it's limiting the areas we have opportunities to repave, reconstruct, things of that nature. So our census tracts this year, or for the next, let's say, 10 years, are very limited. Actually, if I can come over here, I'll pull up a map for the public to see.
Could you put this one down?
Yes. Penny, can you turn on the screen? Okay. Can you hand me the remote controls? That one, and then the other white one underneath your package there. Okay, so Howell Township is now limited to 3 census tracts, unfortunately. Did you turn this one on? I did. Okay, I'm gonna hit that one. Right now, it is the area from West Farms Road north to, let's say, Burgerville, but from Route 9 only to the Freehold Township border or Jackson Township border. So there's really only Fort Plains Road, the entire Toscana development, North American Drive, and the trailer parks that are over there. So if you remember 2016, our presentation was regarding the sidewalks on West Farms Road, which have been completed. So that was within this census tract. So that's what we're looking at. For example, here, you can now see on the screen, this entire area is all private. It's all privately owned. So there's really nothing for us to do. Fort Plains Road is really not in that bad a shape. It was paved in the mid-2000s. And Toscana is a generally higher-end neighborhood that doesn't have much work to do. So there's really not a lot to do over here. We're then left with these 2 areas. So this area here is the Villages and also Manasquan River Park development, which are, you know, higher-end homes built relatively recently compared to a lot of other places. The Villages was paved in 2012 by the township. The Stream Bank area, that doesn't really need any work. And this is Adelphia Greens, which is private. So not a whole lot of options here. And then the biggest group this year is this central area of town, which is Georgia Tavern Road, Windler, some parts of Oak Glen and Maxim, Preventorium. This area is Casino. This is where we're going to potentially do the project. So in reviewing all of this area, there's a lot going on. The water company is doing some water main work, so we're not going to pick a road that they're going to turn around and put a water main in. Some of the roads are county-owned roads, so there's no opportunity for us to do those. Some of them have already been repaved. You know, West Farms in this stretch has been repaved within the last 10 years. So it's not in bad condition. So that's what we're really limited to. In the previous census tract, it was actually the area of Ford Road, Brown Road, Driftway, Kent Road, which was one of our eligible areas. And this is no longer eligible. Nothing changed in that area, only I would assume less people returned their census documents than the last time. So, you know, that area is no longer eligible. So we're stuck with these areas. So we have to pick from somewhere in this region, or we can do improvements to parks, to township buildings, things like that, that are accessible improvements, ADA improvements. For instance, years ago, we revamped the bathrooms, I believe, over at the old engineering building and the old town hall under a CDBG grant. That was because we didn't have accessible bathrooms for the general public. So we did that as an option that they approved. 3 years ago, we replaced or we installed accessible pathways in 6 of our largest township parks. So that was another project that qualified because it provided accessible pathways. So we're really looking at ADA improvements and paving. Those are our 2 main opportunities for projects. So this year, after all the projects we went through with Mr. Gulix and the team, you know, things with the least strings attached is really what you're looking for. You know, Adelphia is a great little area that I think has been overlooked for a long time. You know, the county's getting ready to do that big monster project to realign Halls Mill Road and into Edinburgh Drive into our township. But then once you get into Adelphia itself, you know, the sidewalks are not great. They're all over the place. They're up, they're down, they're, you know, it's a county road, but the township's still technically required to maintain those, or required to be responsible to put them in, replace them, whatever it is. But there's no right-of-way in Adelphia, right? The right-of-way is only 33 feet wide. The road's already, you know, almost out to that point as it is. So for us to do that project would require easement acquisition, right-of-way acquisition, survey, attorneys, sorry, Joe, but, you know, it's not a quick process. And with HUD money, the way it works, you have to do the project within a certain time period. If you don't, they'll pull the money back. And we can't say, well, hey, we're looking for another extension after another extension after another extension. They're just going to pull the funding. So that's why, you know, we're looking for simple projects that are, let's say, the least strings attached that we can get done in a timely fashion. And there's no reason why we couldn't put these together with last year's phase and this year's phase, do it all as one nice project, design it up, go out to bid, and have it under construction within reasonable timeframes. So that's why we picked this project.
Thank you.
So at this time, I would ask the mayor to open up for public questions.
Absolutely. Is there anyone here that has any questions regarding the grants that we're about to submit?
I'll ask the same question I asked the other night.
Okay, come on up, Bob, please.
My knee is beyond help.
Why don't you sit down, Barbara?
I'll never get up.
No?
You'll need a hook to get me off the chair.
Okay.
I'll ask the same question. Barbara Dixell, 62A Piazza Vittoria, Freehold, New Jersey, The Villages. I know, I've spoken to Frank Passeggio about the Halls Mill project. Yes, they're going to take 400 feet off the farm. Yes, they're going to realign the road and line it up with Edinburgh and become a county road. However, Passeggio keeps telling me, Wyckoff Mills Road, years ago, many years ago, we were on the list for, we were eligible for HUD, we were eligible for that, and was pulled to do Ford Road. Time and time and time again, villages got screwed. Ford Road got preference over us. It's about time, maybe. Ford Road, Wyckoff Mills Road needs to be done, the bridge needs to be reconstructed. Yeah, it's cracked, the roadway's cracked. There are no sidewalks along Wyckoff Mills Road. Our residents walk to the post office on the roadway. You know? it's time for us old geezers in the villages, really. Maybe before I kick the bucket, maybe I'll live to see the villages being taken care of. For years and years and years, the villages have been stuck. Ford Road's gotten it over us.
Jim, did you just say that you did paving there? When did you say you did that?
The entire village's development got taken over by the township in 2011 or 12-ish, and we spent
It
$1
was
million
back
paving their streets.
No. We were forced to give up the ordinances from the mayors from 19, I have the ordinances. We were forced by the township to give them up. We had to pay $300,000 to Howell Township for them to go do our roads. We were forced to give it up.
That money was for the parking lot portions of the roads, which are not public right-of-ways. So that's what the funding was for. But the township spent $1 million of capital township funding to repave all of the roads in the villages.
The township, according to my copies, and I have the ordinances.
But why are we rehashing this when
just
you're talking
because I-
about Wyckoff, right? You're talking about
Well,
Wyckoff.
okay, you know what? You were here a long time.
Yes.
Stop telling me we don't deserve it. Stop telling me
I
to
didn't
stop
tell,
talking about it.
I didn't say that. I
It's time-
said,
It's time the old people woke up and took care of the villages.
we're talking about, you're talking about Wyckoff.
Wyckoff, yeah, sidewalks maybe,
Okay,
would help.
okay.
Thank you. I have the ordinances. I'll bring them to you, Mayor, so you can read them.
Thank you.
We were forced to give it up. 1980, the township is responsible. It's under the Kelly law. Township is responsible for lighting, snow removal, and paving the roads. And by the way, Marlboro sued and won. So bad the villages did.
I'm not even sure what she's talking about.
Is there anyone else that would like to come up regarding this topic? Seeing none, I will close this portion of the meeting.
Jim, the Wyckoff, I assume that would be eligible for this grant?
Wyckoff was eligible. We looked at it. It's not in as bad as condition as Casino is, plain and simple. You know, that's part of my job is to evaluate all these roads and try to pick the best one and honestly the worst one. And Wyckoff Mills is not as bad as Casino, period. I also have talked to the county. They have spoke about replacing the bridge over there. One thing I wouldn't do is go pave the road right up to the bridge and then have the county spend a year ripping out the bridge and replacing it and beating up the road.
On
So,
Wyckoff you're talking about, the bridge
Yes.
on Wyckoff? The
Yep.
county's looking at that?
and there's potential for some development down by the post office. So once again, I don't want to go and repave a road and then we wind up stuck having to let a guy cut the road to put gas service in and this and that when I can wait till after he's done. So we're also looking at, the water company's about to start installing a new sewer main on Wyckoff Mills Road, right in front of the villages. So the piece in front of the villages will actually get repaved by the water company when this is complete. That'll be about 1,000 feet or more from the intersection of Strickland north to kind of the back of the First Financial Complex that they built up there. So, but not quite all the way up to the cemetery, let's say.
And these are pictures of Casino.
Yep.
I would have to agree, they're in bad shape.
Having driven them, I would agree.
So the next is a straw poll?
Yeah.
Yes, if there's no other comments, then we would ask for a straw poll vote from the council, and then we'll present our application to the county.
It's not formal, we're all in agreement.
Everyone agrees?
Yes.
Yes.
So that'll be written down in the minutes, and we'll make our submission to the county. So, all right?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and
Thank you
effort
very
into
much.
this.
Chris, thank you very much for all your help. And we're good.
Okay, so I'll go back to reports from the township officials.
Yes, Mayor, I have a few items. You were all copied on a memo from our CFO regarding the sale of our debt from last week. As you're aware, we converted $9 million of our bond anticipation notes to a general obligation bond. CFO reports it was very competitive. We had 7 bidders coming in with a total spread of 0.25%, with the winner being J.P. Morgan at an interest rate of 2.601075. So that will be issued 10/16, and it'll mature on 11/1 of '29. I believe you were all copied on that memo. On for tonight, you'll see a shared service agreement that we'll be entering into with the Jackson Township MUA. That will be to share purchasing agent services. They recently lost their purchasing agent. We gained one, so now they're going to be paying us for those services upon acceptance by the governing body, and it's proposed to their board as well. Freewood Acres Sewer Project has just gotten started. If we could urge parents to make sure their kids stay away from all the work that's being done in the Freewood Acres section. It's going to be going on for quite a while, and a lot of moving parts there.
And so just for clarification for anybody who's listening, there will be school bus changes, I think we talked about, that they would have to, just make sure to be aware.
Yes, that's going to
look
be
for that.
changing as the location of the work changes. I actually just had a conversation with the school today about that, and putting their people in contact with engineering as well as the contractor so they can get the updates.
Perfect.
If there has to be any changes. But any of them would only be temporary as the work zone progresses through their neighborhood. Next thing, we just received notice from FEMA that we're not eligible for any assistance from our storm from the August 11th to August 13th flooding. With all the critical incidents going on around the country, I guess they have to conserve resources as well, so they decided that our damage did not rise to the level of needing their assistance. We're still waiting to hear if they will be offering SBA loans to any of the affected residents, which are low-interest loans to help those people recover. But this was the first step. The SBA would come afterwards. And then I also just received a letter from Monmouth County regarding the Solid Waste Advisory Council, the transfer station. We had written a letter to the freeholders indicating that we would like to be in receipt of a draft copy once they have their traffic study done. Basically, the letter was acknowledging receipt and said that they will provide it to us upon its completion. I forwarded a copy of that to all of you earlier today. And that is all I have for the moment. Jim?
Mayor, everyone was at the Freewood Acres groundbreaking this morning, so you guys are all aware of that. We also have our contractor on our 2018 capital paving project has been working over on Starlight Drive, installing some under drains and curbing, other concrete work. And they're also taking some hazardous trees down in our old Parkway Pines, Ramtown neighborhood right now. So they're progressing. Additional concrete crew is starting this week. So they'll have doubled up crews everywhere to try to get this all done this year before we get bad weather. So other than that, status quo.
Thank you. Lou?
Yes, just want to make the council aware that item on the agenda, Resolution 9A5, we will be tabling till the next meeting as this resolution needs 4 votes to pass, and since there's only 3 members present, we will be tabling it, just a Chapter 159 resolution for an electronic vehicle charging grant. Wanted to make you aware for when you make your motion.
9A5, you said, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Anyone else? Joe?
Nothing for me, Mayor.
You got anything?
I do have a question. In terms of the FEMA, do we have any recourse? Can we open dialogue with them? Can we do anything to ask them to reconsider?
There is information in the letter regarding an appeal process. From the feedback I've gotten from county, our OEM and their county liaisons, I don't think we'd be successful in an appeal. You know, when you compare the damage that our municipality sustained versus some of the others that they're dealing with currently, it just doesn't rise to the same level. We could certainly try, though, if you'd like.
So then what do the residents do?
As I said, after FEMA came out with this, the next step would be through the SBA. If they should decide to do so, they'll offer low-interest loans to affected residents that they can take advantage of to assist with.
That's unfortunate.
Do we know a dollar amount to the extent of damage that was done in the town? I mean, you must have submitted that, right?
Yeah, I don't have that readily available. I could get it for you.
No, that's just, all right. Thank you. You have anything? Okay, so I'd like to open this meeting for public discussion on the consent agenda items. That's all right, Barbara. Was Barbara the only one on the list? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Barbara Dixell, 62A Piazza Vittoria, Freehold, New Jersey.
Good evening.
I'm here tonight to make a presentation to Howell Township. Hopefully, you will put this in your charter documents and save it for history, because it is history.
What is the topic?
The topic is, okay, when Chief Harvey Morrell passed away, Jerry and I were at the funeral along with a lot of other Howell residents. On the way out, we said our goodbyes, and Chief Kudrick asked me if I would be willing to write something. And I said, it will be my honor to do so. So I did. I wrote the entire biography of Harvey F. Morrell Jr. It is 6 pages. I've already presented it to the chief and a copy to the department. I'm now going to present a copy of this to you guys.
Thank you very much.
This is the front of it.
Very nice.
It reads, Howell Police Chief Harvey F. Morrell Jr., a life of honor, a hero for the ages, 1931 to 2018. And as I say, it's six pages. And every page has a star on it. And here's the big presentation copy, I had his full picture on it.
Very nice.
This is,
How long did it take you, Barbara?
several weeks. I went off my computer, and I also took the obituary from the funeral parlor, and it's a lot of deep thought. It's a lot of things that have to be put together. I also took the history of the police department, his accomplishments. It's a whole lot of stuff that goes into this.
How well did you know Chief Morrell?
I never met him.
Really?
No, Jerry and I never met him. But I understand he was a hero for the ages. He was Howell's first policeman. He was Howell's first police chief. He was Howell's first elected mayor. And he founded the police department. And his accomplishments, I don't think anyone's going to fill his shoes, ever.
He was quite a gentleman, Barbara,
Yes,
you're right.
Well, so I'm going to read this presentation to you. And like I said, all I ask is that this be put away with Howell's charter papers, because this is history. There's a lot of it in here that is definitely history. Just put it away. Anybody wants to read it, but don't take it any place, because I don't have another one. I mean, I have one for myself. If you need another one, I'll be glad to do it. And it says, October 6, 2018, Several months ago, at age 87, Harvey F. Morrell Jr., a gentle giant, passed away. His life was a life of honor. Harvey was Howell Township's first police officer and chief of police. He founded the Howell Township Police Department that is now recognized as one of the finest police departments in the country. Although Jerry and I never met Harvey Morrell, we paid our respects to the family at the funeral chapel. As we left, Police Chief Andrew Kudrick spoke to me and asked me if I would be able to think of writing something. I told him it would be my honor to do it. Harvey had an associate degree, a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree. He also graduated from the FBI 116th National Academy class. Other accomplishments were he founded the North Howell Little League. He was a member of the Howell Rotary Club, the Howell Chamber of Commerce, the Howell Republican Club, and was a member of the executive board of the Monmouth County Police Chiefs Association. Sadly, his wife, the love of his life and the apple of his eye, preceded him and left him with a broken heart. His children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren meant the world to him. Several years ago, the Howell Township Council renamed the Police Department Headquarters Building in honor of Harvey F. Morrell, Jr., the first police chief of Howell Township and the first elected mayor of Howell Township. His life was a life of honor. He was a hero for the ages. That's, and, second page. I wrote this biography of Harvey F. Morrell life that is part of Howell's history. Please put it with Howell Township's documents in a safe place and preserve it forever. I gave the original copy to Chief Kudrick and his family. Respectfully, Barbara Dixell.
I want to commend you, Barbara, in doing that, and without even knowing him, to go ahead and do this for the chief. I'm sure he truly appreciated
Yeah,
it.
I think he was very surprised when I finally tracked him down the other day.
I'm sure he appreciates it very much, and I say we all appreciate it as well.
But it's 6 pages long. It's, you know.
I look forward to
There's
it.
there's a lot in depth. And I just took some of his fine accomplishments that, you know, not a lot of people get to do in life, but he really dedicated himself. So, by all means.
You might have a
1930
new career in writing at this point.
Well, I don't know. I guess,
Thank you, Barbara.
else?
It's very nice.
when I was in college, I got high marks when I had to write, you know, my essays, you know, the entrance essays, so. Yeah, I don't mind doing it, I enjoy doing it. It takes a lot of deep thought and a lot of just barnstorming things down on paper and then putting it together. But
Well, that's
enjoy
great.
it.
Thank you, we all
Please
appreciate it.
preserve it for the ages, everybody. This is history. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure to do it.
Is there anyone else that would like to come up for comment?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Joan Osborne, 28 Bronia Street, Howell. I just have a couple questions about items on the consent agenda. Item 9A-10, authorize approval to submit a grant application for the Howell Road project. What is the Howell Road project that's being referenced?
Mayor, this is our standard New Jersey Department of Transportation municipal aid grant. So it's that time of year again where the state allows us to submit a grant application for roadway projects, different things like that. So actually tonight we have two resolutions on, 9A10 and 9A11. The first one is for Howell Road, the second one is for West Farms Road. And those are, once again, those kind of no to low strings attached type projects that we would get hopefully state funding for, and then perform a mill and overlay or something similar to that. So based on the increase in the gas tax, It seems the Transportation Trust Fund is flush with money these days, and are kind of advising people to put in for more money than they always used to because there's more money to give out. So following those orders, we did, and we submitted 2 applications this year, which was actually much more difficult than you would have thought because we've paved a lot of roads. So finding very high-traffic roads that are in poor condition that would score well on the DOT's checklist is harder to do than you would think. So that's how we got to these 2 tonight.
So these are strictly mill and overlay, there not any change to the location of the road?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay. And does that involve any matching funds from the township?
It does not. However, normally we present projects that will go over the grant amount because usually you will get a little bit less. We want to make sure that we don't undercut ourselves, so we'll typically ask for a little more, and then we'll supplement that with capital funding.
Okay, and West Farms Road is a long road. The second project you mentioned, is that for the entire road?
It is not. It is for the stretch from Route 9 to Turpac, which is in by far the worst condition right now. And West Farms Road was paved in, I believe, 3 sections over the years, and actually was paved with grant funding from this program. I think the last time was 2007, in a different stretch, not the same stretch.
All right, and this is not a stretch that has anything to do with the affordable housing project? This is the other side of West Farm?
No, this is the piece from Route 9 to Turpac. And yes, there is some affordable housing proposed along there. Unfortunately, the road is getting so bad that I can't wait anymore. So I have to do something about it.
So this isn't the area where Howell Family Apartments is going?
Correct, it is not.
All right, thank you.
Barbara Dixell, The Villages. You talked about Howell Road. Oh, not Howell Road or Halls Mill?
Howell,
Howell Road. Okay. Howell Road from County Road 524 to,
no, Howell Road from Vanderveer Road
Okay.
to Business 33.
Vanderveer Road's like a side road.
Where
that cuts in.
it meets on the kind of really
An
acute
angle.
angle.
Yeah.
From there, over where the old railroad tracks were,
Right.
up and over bypass, over 33 bypass,
What
to
about the
where
railroad tracks?
railroad tracks are gone. They've been gone for
They're-
a decade.
They're paved over.
No, they were removed over a decade ago. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask. Howell Road. Okay, good, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come up? There being no one else, I would like to close this section of the meeting. And go on to the resolutions, consent agenda. Want to make,
Sure, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for 9A1 through 9A13, omitting
Okay, you're gonna admit, man.
omitting 9A5 until another date.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
yes. There are no motions. We'll go into the ordinances at this time. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Okay. Ordinance 0-18-33, or 10.1. Ordinance number 0-18-33, introduced and passed on first reading on 9/25/18 and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of this publication of the ordinances in the Asbury Park Press issue of 9/28/18 is submitted and is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and that copies are available to the general public upon request.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance setting forth and amending and supplementing the salary range schedule for the salaries of certain officers and employees of the Township of Howell.
At this time, I'd like to open up for public hearing. I'll close it. Is anyone here needs?
Would it be a significant change to this ordinance if we remove the humane law enforcement officer's salary? Would that be significant? Joe?
I think it would be. Why would you want to take it out?
There was a range.
Yeah, I would think that there would be material change required reintroduction.
Why would you want it removed?
Because my understanding is that it's not necessarily needed, based on the law.
The position.
The position is needed, but it could be in-house, an existing police officer or detective or something like that, that would get some minor training, and then, well, is this gonna be a stipend, or is this an hourly rate as a salary,
This is just listed as an hourly rate.
but not as a stipend?
Correct.
Could it be used as a stipend?
I don't believe the way it's written, it could be.
Could there be a limit of hours? I mean, I don't know what you want to accomplish. I'm just trying to.
Just creating another salary ordinance that may not be necessary, in my opinion. But if it's not gonna be as a stipend and we're not gonna hire, we're gonna keep it in-house, from what I understand, then it'll just be on the books as a salary.
The intention of the chief of police is to assign these duties to an existing confidential assistant within the police department. So it would be a new position for her, but it's outside of her normal duties. So when she performs these duties related to this, she would get paid that hourly rate.
I don't support that. I've made my reasons known, but,
I do have a question, if I could. Do we know, is that position presently being held by a police officer full-time?
No. There was a mandate that came down from the prosecutor's office that required the police department to appoint somebody to this position.
Has anyone been appointed to this position at this point in time?
Yes.
And this is not the same person?
No, it is. This is
is.
establishing compensation for that person.
But you just said it was not a full-time position.
Correct.
And is the person that has taken this, did they currently have a full-time position?
They do. But
So-
it's totally unrelated. She
So-
works for the police department in
Right,
it.
so this would be an extra.
Correct.
So this is hours up and above the full-time position she presently has?
Correct.
and that's the chief's decision. It's not your decision. So if the chief decided that he wanted to put a detective in this position, and the scope of the work is to do investigative work when it deals with animal control and stuff like that, there wouldn't be a need for a stipend.
The chief still needs to appoint somebody into that position, and that's something to bring up with the union, whether there's a stipend for compensation for that.
But
The law doesn't require that the police chief make that decision, does it?
The law doesn't require a stipend for anything, but yet we do
No,
pay
no,
them
no,
for
the
various
position,
specialties.
who fills the position?
I would have to research that to give you a definite answer, whether it's the chief or the manager.
So this could now become overtime? Am I understanding this correctly?
No, well, the way I understand it is, I have a full-time position,
Correct.
and I have a second job. And my second job is paying me $25 an hour. That's how I understand it.
That
as
is correct,
You're
Mayor.
presenting.
Yes.
And the way it was explained to me by the person who wrote the law was that a salary ordinance was not necessary. That typically what most towns are doing, the police chiefs are hiring a detective, someone who has investigative skills. There's two different requirements of how much training you get, because they do have to go back to the police academy to be eligible for this position. So if it's someone in law enforcement, they get 4 hours of training. If it's someone who doesn't have any law enforcement experience, I think they go for 12, 16 hours. It's a much more extensive program. And how other towns are doing it is that they're assigning typically a detective who has investigative skills already, because this is going to involve investigations when it's larger than the scope that Humane Society can do. So they're going to assist, and therefore there's no need to have an extra stipend or salary. So that's my understanding. If you want to table this, we could have the Humane Society chief come here and explain it the way he explained it to me, or you guys could pass it.
I would like to point out, this is the third time that this ordinance is now in front of you.
And I just got this information 2 days ago, which I relayed, so I understand.
You said this gentleman wrote the legislation for this?
He was part of the legislation. Ross,
Part of the reason we're in this is because the legislation is severely flawed, so there
Doesn't
is a lot
surprise
of
me.
vagueness to it, and that's one of the problems the chief was trying to overcome. So,
Is there, I'm just asking the question, is there a limit on hours? I mean, let's be fair, if somebody's working 40-hour work week, how many more hours in a week you're gonna put in? So I don't know if,
I don't
I mean,
believe
how-
there is.
how-
However, based on the current log of animal complaints that they
Right.
get that would require criminal investigation,
It's low.
extremely low.
I don't have an issue.
And I believe several towns are doing it all different ways. Some are assigning it to a detective, some are contracting it out to, like, the ASPCA or Humane Society. I forget which one of those can fill this. And Chief decided to handle it a different way. I felt it was well within his budget and agreed with him. If we assign it to an existing detective, I'm sure there's going to be a request from the union to pay a stipend, which is going to be cost prohibitive compared to what we're going to be paying the civilian.
So you're telling me that this person that's going to take this role on is a civilian?
Correct. And I can't speak for the chief, but I believe that they would be working in conjunction with their detective bureau. I'm sure if there's interviews or, other parts of the investigation, he would have detectives involved with it. This person is just going to be handling the animal aspects.
and we'll have to go back to the academy, correct? You didn't read that?
Perhaps he could comment on the legislation because there was nothing said about the training. He did send her for the Class 1 Special Law Enforcement Officer training, which is about 40 hours. It's a week-long program, in anticipation that that would at least cover or exceed what would be needed.
Where does this fall when we do budget again?
It would
In-
be
in
under the
terms-
police department's part-time employee line.
So a full-time employee for the department is also going to fall under the part-time line?
Correct. For example, we have other situations that fall into this identical scenario where we may have a full-time police dispatcher that also works part-time as a Class 2 officer. Same exact situation. When they're working as a dispatcher, their salary is drawn from the full-time line. When they're working as a Class 2, that's coming from the part-time line.
Just for my own, as a question, just around, so is there additional vacation time accrued?
No.
Or and there's no additional?
Correct.
Cost? I'm fine with this. The only thing I see is a possible logistic problem if an issue occurs during the day and this person is a full-time employee and couldn't leave their day job, so to speak. That's the only thing I could see as not a positive.
Then it would fall to a detective, I would presume,
Well,
right?
I guess.
That's up to the day-to-day operations of the chief. That doesn't fall under my purview.
Okay.
So, how would you like to move forward? Would you like to adopt it?
I lost my,
You read your part?
Yes.
you're done, right? Okay, I'll make a motion that ordinance number 01833 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the October 12, 2018 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
May I have? Do I have to step down? Right?
Yes.
I have to step down to be, to vote.
Rob's not going to second, so she's going to step down. Right. Yes, you are correct. You'd
So,
step down as mayor and
I'm
and
stepping
second
down
it.
as
There
mayor
you go,
and
second
voting.
it.
And second.
And I'm second.
Okay,
seconding
roll.
it.
Okay, roll call. Mrs. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
No.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Ordinance 0-18-34. Land use, chapter 18, amend chapter 188, land use for decks. Ordinance number 0-18-34, introduced and passed on first reading on 9/25/18 and published according to law, is now being taken up for consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 9/28/18 is submitted, and it is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board and in the municipal building, and that those copies will be available to the general public upon request.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance of the Township of Howell amending Chapter 188, Article 3, Section 188-15, entitled Decks of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell.
May I have a motion?
Open public.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to open this up for discussion with the general public. Seeing no discussion, I will close this portion.
Motion that ordinance number O-18-34 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the October 12, 2018 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Motion to introduce ordinance number O-18-35 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in the October 12, 2018 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after a public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on October 23, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time in the municipal building.
May I have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. Second. I'm sorry.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance of the Township of Howell amending Chapter 188-79 entitled Special Economic Development of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell. Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Is there any unfinished business or any information that needs to be passed out this evening? Our next regular meeting will be Tuesday, October 23rd, 2018, executive session at 6:30, regular session at 7:30. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.